You guys, Robert Steeman here. I know I said my next video was going to be a Hebrew lesson, if you will, but we got to talk about something that is really happening in our lives right now, mine and Missy's. So we're in this situation where we really have no idea what way to turn. I'm praying, I'm seeking, and I just feel like I'm not getting the answer. I feel like I'm disconnected with the Father, if you will. And then he touched my heart this morning. Now, I want to add this disclaimer that I chose to seek him. And the Bible says that if you draw near to me, I will draw near to you. That's a promise. And from this experience that I'm about to share, this promise is legit, and he fulfills it every single time. And I'll give you a little spoiler alert. At the end of it, I was weeping, I was joyful, I was laughing. It was indescribable what he did in my heart, how he took away this indecision, if you will, and replaced it with indescribable joy. So let's get to this. We're in Psalms 136. And if you guys haven't read this psalm, this is my first time reading it. It blew my mind with the obvious theme of this entire chapter. So we're going to read this whole thing, and then we're going to cross-reference with something that happened in relation to Psalms 23 in our lives. So Psalms 136. Give thanks to Yahweh, for he is good, for his loving commitment is everlasting. Give thanks to the Elohim of mighty ones, for his loving commitment is everlasting. Give thanks to the Master of masters, for his loving commitment is everlasting. To him who alone does great wonders, for his loving commitment is everlasting. To him who by wisdom made the heavens, for his loving commitment is everlasting. I hope you see this theme growing and growing. It's almost like he's beginning at the dawn of creation before he decided to create. This is what is, and then he begins to detail the actual creation account a little bit. To him who spread the earth on the waters, for his loving commitment is everlasting. To him who made great lights, for his loving commitment is everlasting. The sun to rule by day, for his loving commitment is everlasting. The moon and stars to rule by night, for his loving commitment is everlasting. Here is where it just he just came and just, here's the truth for you. You need to listen, my son. Here we go. Verse 10. To him who struck Mitzrayim, which is Hebrew for Egypt, in their firstborn, for his loving commitment is everlasting, and brought out Yisrael from their midst, for his loving commitment is everlasting. With a strong hand and with an outstretched arm, for his loving commitment is everlasting. To him who split apart the sea of reeds, for his loving commitment is everlasting, and made Israel, pass through the midst of it, for his loving commitment is everlasting, but shook off Pharaoh and his army in the sea of reeds. Just completely covered them with water. For his loving commitment is everlasting. To him who led his people through the wilderness, for his loving commitment is everlasting. To him who struck great sovereigns, for his loving commitment is everlasting. And just so you know, this translation is very different. The loving commitment is, from what I remember, the word chesed, which is usually translated mercy, but I think more accurately it describes the essence of being lovingly committed. So let's keep going. To him who struck great sovereigns and killed mighty sovereigns, for his loving commitment is everlasting. And then we're going to skip to the end. And rescued us from our adversaries. Actually, back up a verse, because this verse 23 is amazing. Who remembered us in our humiliation, for his loving commitment is everlasting. Who remembered us in our humiliation. Verse 24. And rescued us from our adversaries, for his loving commitment is everlasting. Who gives food to all flesh, for his loving commitment is everlasting. Give thanks to the El of the heavens, for his loving commitment is everlasting. That just completely spoke to my situation right now. Because if you are able to allow your mind to focus on who Yahweh is, on who he promises he is. To me, I am Yisrael. I am that set apart people. And he has already done to Egypt what Egypt deserves. He has already brought me out of that constriction. He has already separated the waters so that there's a clear path for me to walk through, right? I mean, we know the song by Jonathan Hessler, we are no longer slaves to sin, but I am a child of God. I am a child of God. So therefore, that's what I'm going to focus on, is the fact that Yahweh is lovingly committed. He's committed in love. That's the covenant that is established between me and my Father. Period. Period. So I don't care what you are going through, believer of Yahweh. I don't care what you're going through, you servant of the Master Yeshua, of Jesus. Focus on Him. Dwell in Him. Sit at His feet. All right, let's go back to Psalms 23. Super, super pumped right now because Yahweh is so good. Okay, so over the weekend we were at the Feast of Sukkot, and I'm going to condense this super, super down to like the nitty-gritty, right? He literally anointed my head with oil, and I was able to speak on His behalf in the interpretation of tongues. It was incredible. If you want more detail, you can try and message me personally, rsteeman14@gmail.com, and I'd be happy to go over more detail. But that's the essence, and it meant so much to me because I love being in the step of Yahweh to where He uses me and I'm able to bless people. It does so many good things to my heart. But Psalms 23, most of you are familiar with this. Yahweh is my shepherd, I do not lack. Oh my gosh, right there. You do not lack. So if you think you lack, and if Yahweh is your shepherd, then go back to this and be reminded. You have no lack in Him because He's the good shepherd. He's good, and He's a leader, and He's going to lead His sheep on the ways of righteousness, period. So He's going to provide for you. And go back to Psalms 136. It talks about how He's lovingly committed to Israel in the wilderness. Well, what happened in the wilderness? The first part of it, they had to trust in Yahweh literally for water and bread, living manna. And on the sixth day, grab grab double portions, so that on the seventh day you don't have to go out, because this is the Sabbath unto Yahweh. This is the Sabbath for you so that you can rest and enjoy me and be filled up. Okay? So I do not lack. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He turns back my being. He leads me in paths of righteousness for His name's sake. When I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You spread before me a table in the face of my enemies. Here we go. You have anointed my head with oil. My cup runs over. So here's what the Father confirmed to me, and I'm sharing it for you so that you can be encouraged that Yahweh called me His sheep, and He confirmed it, that I am His, not only called, but His chosen. And my amazing, beautiful pastor spoke that over me as well. And it's like the cyclical confirmation that this confirms with this, and then it ties all the way back to the first confirmation. So let me speak to you right now directly. You who call yourself Yisrael, you who call yourself set apart, you who call yourself in covenant with Yahweh Yahoshua HaMashiach, Yahweh Jesus the Messiah, as most people know Him. Okay? You are in relationship with Him. He loves you. He is committed to you. You may make mistakes. You may stumble. You may fall. But it says in another place that the righteous may fall 7 times, but he gets up 7 times. That's the definition of righteousness that I'm going to run with. It's not that it's perfect. It's not that it's a walk of perfection. That will never be attained, because then it would clearly exemplify that there is no need of a Messiah. But since there is a need of a Messiah, perfection is the goal. His stature is the goal. I haven't reached perfection. I still need Him. And He confirmed that He is a very good shepherd. He is a very good Father. And He loves me so much. And I want to say that to you, that He loves you so much. So if you want me to pray for you, please email me. I listed it earlier. Shalom, blessings, and I'll see you guys again.